Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everybody, I am delighted to introduce my guest today, Mbah. Anwin is a certified business wealth strategist, gender racial wealth gap advocate, and founder of Wealth Fluency. She helps successful, driven businesswomen who are struggling with the overwhelm of gaining control of their finances to attain financial independence. Having 10 years experience with major banks in Europe to implement systems that make them a lot of money, she's uniquely placed to help women understand their finances and develop systems that help them build wealth, achieve financial security, and the freedom they are looking for. Please join me in welcoming AnwinMbahalways. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me here, Tammy. Totally pumped to be here.
It is so delightful to have you here, and welcome from your home office in Orlando, Florida, where you're having some storms today. So we're hoping that the recording comes out clear, but if we have a few little glitches, listeners will understand. So, Anwin, tell me, could you have imagined yourself thinking back to your younger self? Could you have imagined where you are today? What was your little self like?
A resounding no. No, absolutely not. Considering that I started with Nancy Drew, then Babysitter's Club, and then it was Indiana Jones. So,
Nancy Drew, Indiana Jones, sounds very adventuresome.
Yes. Oh, I used to love those books. And then we also had those books that you decided your own ending. I cannot remember them now, but they don't do them they don't publish them any longer. And you read it like 6 different times and have 6 different endings. I used to love those books.
So when you say, oh no, that's not what, were you imagining yourself being an adventurer or a spy or?
Yes, I definitely did. And probably if I was to describe it in anything later on, it's probably like Tomb Raider, where they had the adventure, but then they had the archaeology and she had it all together and she was badass and everything. So that would be like what I now think I imagined I wanted to be then. So it was quite interesting moving from that then to medicine, and then from medicine into finance. It's been quite a trajectory.
Wow.
In regards to how I got here.
So you started your professional career path in medicine, and I know that you described yourself. I know you've lived in several different countries as well growing up. So when did you take an interest in medicine? And tell us also about your international background as well.
I would love to. That's the best part. So basically, if I say, when you know the right thing to do, but you do not necessarily get yourself to do it for one reason or the other, that is basically me. And that's how I started. So I grew up in a very sheltered diplomatic household. So that worked for the embassy. Mom was a homemaker. She got a stipend to basically run the household as you do. And that played a big part in my mindset later on in life as well. And being of an African background or anybody of an Indian or an Asian background, you know that our parents give us 4 options in regards to which careers we should go into. So I'm the eldest of 4 daughters, and that was the designated medic. Then my sister was a designated lawyer. The next one was an engineer. And then the last one was an architect. So my dad got
So were
2
you
out
all
of
kind
4.
of slotted? Were you all slotted into these places, or did you have a choice?
No, you have no choice. What are you talking about?
No, so no one was slotted in the diplomat slot then. No one was expected to be a diplomat, even though your dad was a diplomat.
My dad didn't really want us to go into politics because he was dealing with it. And I guess later on, now me being me and being in the tech space and project management and product management and being in that space, stakeholder management is a big thing. So I believe me looking at the way politics is now and me looking at my experience with stakeholder management, I could see why he said no.
So you mentioned Africa. Tell us now, you didn't really grow up there, but that's where your roots are. Is that right?
Yes, I'm definitely of that heritage. So my parents are both from Cameroon. So in certain circles, I am Cameroonian full and full. And anybody that is from that side of the world, when they see Mbah, they could tell you where I'm from, which tribe I'm from as well.
Oh, really?
So that's so how
it's that specific.
Yes, it is.
So is Mbah would that be like Jones or Brown in the United States or something?
No, it wouldn't be. Jones or Brown is kind of hard to pinpoint where they come from.
That's true.
Instead, mine, you can pinpoint pretty closely where I'm from. That usually, if we were to remove all the maps that was kind of created by the Europeans when they got into Africa.
I see.
I am probably where Nigeria and Cameroon meet. That is the zone, because my surname is shared within the Igbo tribe of Nigeria as well. So people might say, "Oh, are you Igbo?" because of my surname. I'm like, "No, but I'm Cameroonian." They're like, "Oh, that's why." Cameroonian, we kind of that zone.
Oh, wow. That is really interesting. That is so cool. So
I find it fascinating, actually.
It is fascinating. And it's interesting that some people might make one assumption or the other. So, and I think it's interesting for our listeners to hear that, because I know that the first time I met someone from Cameroon, they were surprised that I even knew where Cameroon was. And this was something that I remember studying in 7th grade. So we learned all of the African countries and learned quite a bit about that continent, or quite a bit compared to, I think, some of my contemporaries. So, but you were born in the UK, and you spent quite a bit of time in Italy as well. Is that right?
Yes. So born and bred in UK. My formative years were in Italy. So we're quite a bit. So we're in France, we're in Washington, we're in Italy. And then after finishing boarding school in Italy, I got sent back to the UK to do 6th form and university. Mm-hmm. So I went out first, and then my sisters got sent over later as well. So that period was where I kind of got my first, smell of independence and, being away from parents and everything. So I definitely enjoyed it. And within that space as well, which is where I guess my financial journey kind of started. As soon as the clock struck 18, I was an adult all of a sudden. I was approved for all credit cards and all store cards applied for. So I was stacked in regards to credit. I had all this money, which I dutifully spent.
Oh, no.
I dutifully spent. So I was a very good looking girl at university. I was very decked out. But then everything kind of caught up with me with late payments and so on and so forth. And that started having an impact on my lectures as well. So me trying to catch up with, my late payments. And that was around the time I got my first car as well, which is, again, another symbol. And I could tell you it was a blue Corsa. It was a blue Vauxhall Corsa, sky blue. I could probably even remember the the license number. But
wow.
Go there. But it was late payments and coming home to, again, parking fines and so on and so forth, that everything started spiraling out. And I started working longer hours at my part-time job to try to catch up. And trying to catch up with that means that I was missing out lectures. And it just spiraled, that the fateful day came where I was anxious. When the doorbell rang, I was anxious. When my phone rang, I was anxious. I was just in panic mode all the time because I never knew when they were going to come back for their things or come back for the money that I had spent and I wasn't able to pay. And then the fateful day did come where bailiffs came for my car. So I woke up to my car being pushed onto a tow truck or pulled onto a tow truck. And the bailiffs were taking it away to sell and get the money to pay off some of my debts. Mm-hmm. And remember, I'd said I was the eldest of 4.
Right.
So I felt all sorts of things. So even my ambition and my drive and everything kind of did not help me when it came to managing my finances.
Wow.
And it impacted school as well. And that was, I guess, I went to, and this was after I came back from Mexico. So I was in medical school. I got into medical school and I went to Mexico for a 3 months elective, which I loved. But it was whilst I was there that I kind of like, medicine is not for me, because I don't know if it was because I was in Mexico and I wasn't in the UK where things tend to happen like this. And we have like the national service, the National Health Service. So when in Mexico, I was like, doctors came in too late. That was my biggest gripe with the whole medical situation.
Oh, you mean that people's diseases and illnesses were far more progressed because they didn't have the level of preventative care?
Yes, they didn't have preventative care. And also with the way the mind works as well, you try to solve it yourself. So like when you start feeling ill in the UK and places like that, you tend to go to the doctor. In other countries, you kind of, try different things that by the time you get to the doctor, it's already stage 4.
Right.
So I felt like the doctor came in too late in the game. The doctor came in when they were not even preventing it anymore. It was more managing symptoms. And that is one of the reasons I kind of backed out of medicine, which devastated my parents.
I'm curious, though, were your parents aware of your relationship with money at that time?
No.
Oh, so because I don't want to interrupt this too much, but I'm curious about, there you were on your own for the first time. I mean, you probably had been in university for many years and sounds like you were spreading your wings and kind of for the first time having a chance to kind of do your rebellious thing, or just not that you were being rebellious necessarily, but you got to set your own rules for the first time, it sounds like. And you used money as your sort of, I guess, the way to set your own rules, and it got you into some trouble. But yet you still were following the rules in terms of the expectations of heading into the direction of medicine. And it wasn't till you got to Mexico, once you were already in medical school, that you then decided, oh, I think I'm going to break another rule again.
Yes. It didn't feel right for me. And also I kind of felt I was spending all this time where I could kind of do a lot more with what I'm able to do for people, because in regards to the whole healing part and helping people part still remained a major part of what it is that I actually do today.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came back and kind of shared the fact that I wasn't carrying on with that path no more, first of all, my mom's perspective was, she was like, okay, you don't want to do it, but you have to, you have to do something. You have to be a graduate. And for us, it's a big thing that you graduate, because it's like almost the validation of your education. And also coming from mom's perspective, it was a matter of me owning myself as a woman, because she kind of felt like coming from a very traditional household where it was almost borderline an arranged marriage as well. She felt like as soon as she got into that, then she was typecast into this role of motherhood and, chief head chef. And she felt like if she had actually carried on with her education before getting married, then she might have more say in her relationship. So she was adamant with us, especially because we're 4 girls, that we're very solid in our foundation. And she used to say a quote that people should know you as Anwi before they know you as Mrs.
Interesting. I mean, it's interesting that your mother had that perspective, that she saw things differently than from her own experience. Because sometimes I've seen and spoken to other guests whose mothers or parents carried on their own experience and expected their children to do things the way they did them. So what do you think it was that made your mother decide that she wanted something different for all of you?
We were not in Cameroon, I guess. So we kept moving around. So we were not around a family where there'll be that pressure. Because usually where there are more family members, in my perspective anyways, then there's more pressure to follow status quo. So she was in a space where we had more opportunities. We could decide what we wanted to do. She also as well had that passion to kind of do her own thing. My mom tried out many, many businesses as well. So she had that entrepreneurial mindset within her, that she was like, my kids, she always says that my kids are going to do and be more than I ever was. And so that kind of quote kind of stayed with me, because even after we moved to the UK and we were there and my parents were in Italy, we were still very responsible, I would say, in regards to still following our education and so forth, because we remember our mom saying, make sure people know you for Anwi before they know you for Mrs. So kind of, that self-identification before going any further. So a lot of this as well kind of came into me not being able to tell my parents, especially my mom, that, oh, this is what happened with the car. And I didn't tell them until years later that actually the car got towed away by bailiffs.
I can understand that you wouldn't have wanted to share that with them at the time.
No.
Yeah.
The whole episode made me sick, sick to my stomach. I was angry with myself. I was disappointed, humiliated. I felt stupid, absolutely stupid. And I think the nail in the coffin for me was when I actually had to ask my sister to help me with £10 to top up my electricity key. So it's like, I'm the eldest. I should be the one helping. I should be the one, leading. Instead, I'm here asking her for a tenner to top up my electricity. It's like, come on, girl, how low can you go? And I guess that was it for me. I was like, no, sorry, I'm big sis for a reason. And I enjoyed that role. And that is where I guess my financial re-education started, because I was fed up. And that financial re-education started. And I actually started with the book that everybody knows, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki, and also You're a Badass by Jen Sincero as well.
Sure.
Those were my, initial coaches, as I called them, to me understanding my money. And when I say that my mom and dad's relationship in regards to, she was the homemaker and he went home and he went to work and gave her a stipend, played a big part as I matured as well as a woman and I started dating, because this one particular incident that I went out on a date and the guy wasn't able to pay for our meal. So rather than me paying for the meal, I gave him my card so that he can pay for the meal, because I'm used to the man being the provider. I'm used to the man being the head. And this wasn't even, a serious relationship or a partner or a husband. I actually gave him my card so that he can pay the waiter. And I was like, but that made no sense. Right now, I would say it made no sense whatsoever. But then it made sense to me because I was enabling him to show up as I thought he needed to show up, as I saw my dad show up.
Yeah, I get it. It makes sense, even though you can reconcile it in your mind now and say, wow, that's amazing that's what I did. But at the time, it just felt like it was the right thing to do, and so that was a big turning point, that series of events with your finances really crumbling around you, and the decision not to continue in medicine in that way. I know that you did finish your degree in a somewhat different way, but that was a big time in your life. A lot of learning.
Just thinking about it is like, wow, it was a lot to absorb. Not only from I was learning new things, but I was learning about me as well.
Yes. Yes.
And it is very consuming because there'll always be that battle with your inner self in regards to, you trying to change things for the better, but your routines and your habits always falling back, always relapsing into that bad habit. So it was a lot. It was a lot of change whilst taking on new information as well when I'm going to school.
I love that. I mean, I love that juxtaposition you just described, right? When you're trying to make changes, and part of making changes is also having to incorporate new information. And so it is complex in that way, right? It's not just, oh, I'm making changes, so I'm going to bring in all this information I already know, because there really is. And even if it is information you already know, if it's something that you haven't formally incorporated on a regular basis, in essence, it is somewhat new to you because you're trying to develop some new habits or new muscles, so to speak, right? So I'm curious what came first, or if this all came at the same time. You got back from Mexico, it sounds like, because the car, you lost the car before you went to Mexico. Am I right?
No, it was after. After,
so you got back from Mexico, and you had made this decision about medical school, and then your car was taken from you. So you had a lot of big decisions and a lot of big things going on.
Yes, absolutely. It was a lot. But the good thing, I think, at least, is that the Mexican experience and what I learned there was a positive. So that wasn't draining on me as, coming back and having to deal with everything I left behind. So I think also that helped, I guess, that helped me not spiral deeper into depression.
Oh,
because I had this positive, I went to Mexico and this was the outcome. And it was a different space as well, different people, different cultures. So I really enjoyed my experience there. And that was, I guess that helped me through in regards to, okay, it's not all bad because I had this great experience here and I could recreate this experience. I just have this stumbling block to get through. And there are resources available for me to get through as well. It was very much, I can do it. It's you have no choice. Like in my head, there's like no room for failure. And it could also be my background, my culture. Like we do not fail.
Right.
You take home a C and you have to explain to my parents why you have a C. It's like, why am I paying all this school fees for? Do you know how much your school fees is?
Right. So that was a big hurdle to come back and explain to them that you wanted to make a change around school. Did you already know at that point what that change would look like? Or was it more a matter of, hey, mom and dad, I don't want to continue in medical school, but I don't know what else I'm going to do yet?
Yeah, it was something like that.
I can almost see your back there then. I can see the look on you. You're like, yeah.
It was that kind of conversation. And I actually took some time out.
Oh, you did?
So, so I didn't press on. I took some time out because then I still had to sort out my finances. As much as Jen Sincero and everybody was, like mindset and everything, I still had to deal with the physicality of money.
I see.
So I took time out, took a break from school, and then worked full time and, dealt with my finances that way. And because I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I had to kind of complete a degree, I carried on my credits and did biomedical science. So that meant it was shorter. I wasn't starting from scratch. So I passed with honors in a biomedical science degree, and then went into a career in finance because that's what I was doing. And because, again, biomedical science, there were certain elements to it that you need to, kind of get training in to be able to call yourself a biomedical scientist. So you need to go a bit like lawyers. They have this training period before they're able to call themselves a lawyer. That same methodology in the UK. So I went into a career in finance and have not moved from there since. So 5 years later, I kind of started my own consultancy in the space that I was in. So started off as a cashier when I was in school. I was a cashier or a teller at a bank. Then when I finished school and went full time, I kind of progressed from there. I became a business advisor. Then from business advisor, I became a business analyst and started working with different elements, different projects within the bank. And then 5 years in, I kind of started my own consultancy, being a contractor on different projects with different banks. So I was making a good income then, but I still loved spending. I still love spending, that is for sure. And then when I had my first son, the spending, like, have you like being pregnant with your first kid?
Yeah.
I spent even more then because everything was fascinating to me. And the overspending did not hit me until I was in between contracts. When I was in between contracts, my expenses were sky high. And then I had very little backup and I couldn't take any time off. So that was where, the re-education or the continuation of my re-education kind of kicked off again with Denise Duffel Thompson or Duffel Thomas. She did Lucky Bee. She did like a Lucky Bee series. Denise Duffel Thomas, yes, it's Thomas. And she wrote books around, your money mindset and understanding your money mindset, which wasn't a concept that I necessarily delved into very much, because what I got from that period was that there are two sides to money. There's the physical side of money, your taxes, your bills and all that. And then there's a spiritual side of money, which is then your money mindset and how you go, your money habits. And those two are the same coin. And sometimes we focus on one more than the other, instead of focusing on the two. So I'm very grateful for that period where I was able to actually say, okay, this wasn't conducive for me. So that is where I kind of went with, okay, this is my money mindset. This is what it means. This is what triggers me. And exploring again that relationship with my parents and their relationship with money, which that's when I started exploring that dating scene I had and why that was an issue. And the fact that it is okay for me to be a breadwinner. It is okay for me to support my partner. But it is not okay for me to try to make something out that it's not. So I was almost in the same breath pushing that stereotype that the man has to be the only provider.
Right.
But then in the same breath, almost being ashamed that I was the earner or I was the one paying it. So it's balancing that too, that we are partners. You're not meant to carry the burden.
Right.
And it's okay for me to earn more.
Right.
It's okay for me. So it was marrying those two.
Yeah.
And being comfortable with it. That is what that experience was all about. So I definitely say your money relationship, it's you. All of us have very specific stories. And what I don't like about the industry is that we have these cookie cutter things that they say, oh, money is the root of all evil. What does that mean?
Right.
And it's when you start relating it to your stories.
Yeah.
It comes to life that this is what my money story actually is. It's not about money is the root of all evil.
Right.
It's the fact that the man has to be the provider.
Right. So I'm curious though about the, not to get too analytical here, but so you went through, it sounds like more than one period of time in your life where you overspent out and let's say lived beyond your means, right? And so that feels like a different scenario than the belief that, sort of overcoming or moving beyond the belief that the male has to be the provider kind of thinking. So it seems like that's a different part of you, or a different part of your psychology or your dynamic about, because you had that experience in your younger years. And then later you had your first child and you then got into that big spending again. And I'm curious if you, through a lot of the study and reading that you've done and the work that you've done in this area now, and you've been a big earner too. So it's not just that you've been a big spender, you've also been a big earner. You clearly enjoy the field of finance, which I think is interesting, because that really, I think they're two separate things about being a spender and being someone who enjoys just the field of finance. But I'm curious what you've learned about yourself around this sort of desire to spend, because I think there's a difference between being a spender and then being someone who likes to have a lot of things.
So for me, it was all about understanding me.
Yeah.
And what I found out is right now I am still an overspender. And that is not a bad thing, which is one thing that I go through with my clients as well, is that any particular money habit that you have is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's more this particular habit you have. Is it increasing your wealth or depleting your wealth? And understanding that, okay, this element of me, I could push it this way so it increases my wealth. But I need to mitigate this risk this way so that it doesn't deplete my wealth.
Right.
So to date, I am still an overspender. But what tends to happen now is rather than buying the Louis bag, I actually buy an LVMH ticker.
Yeah.
I'm still buying the same things, but one is actually increasing my wealth because I'm buying a stock share, and the other is just, it's just there.
So that's a very different set of decisions then. So again, it's not about good or bad. I think I agree with you. But it's a matter of, right, as you said, understanding yourself and making decisions, as you said, that increase your wealth, or even to put it in terms that just say, rather than putting yourself in a position where you have someone knocking on your door, taking your car away, right? Which I would say, and maybe you would agree with this, that's not a good thing to have somebody knocking on your door. It's not a good thing to feel anxious about those things, or to feel like you're, that things are slipping away from you, or that you're not in control. If you say I'm still an overspender, that's not a bad thing. My sense is if you're still an overspender, but you're doing it with your eyes wide open, you know what you're doing and you have a handle on it. Whereas when you overspent before, you did it, but you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know the impact of what you were doing. I think there's a big difference when you make a choice to do something and you know the implications of what you're doing and you're taking ownership of what you're doing. And so I think that's the key. I mean, we all make decisions in our lives. I shouldn't say we all. I know I have certainly made decisions to overspend on something, or what my definition of, we all have our own definitions of what overspending is too, right?
Absolutely.
So I've made those decisions myself, and yet I've done it knowing that I will find a way to pay for something because I have very good reasons why I want to have something in a certain whatever that is. So I agree, it's not a good or bad, but there is underneath that, there's that sense of ownership and self-knowledge, right?
Yes.
That you know how you are taking care of yourself in the process.
Yes.
Right.
100%. And that comes from, you having that awareness of who you are. I mean, there was a certain point as well where I know I have triggers and certain things trigger me. So I would go on a retail spree, and it got to a point where I would actually hide it in the car and then sneak it into the house one by one so that hubby wouldn't notice. And because I know that I have those moments where it happens, it's not something that happens every day. It could be once in 6 months or something that I just go a bit too overboard. But because I know that is going to happen, because I'm an emotional being.
Yeah.
I have a fund for that. So that when it does happen, I go and I could do it with ease and not come back and have to deal with the guilt. Because I'm doing it, increasing this fund on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
But then I probably spend out of this fund maybe once a year or maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
And that guilt is not there. And that is because I understand myself as a spender. That is what it means, like mitigating it, because I know it's going to happen, because emotions, I can't hide away from my emotions, right?
Well, you've created a different dynamic around it too, then, I think. It reminds me of this book. It's something like, if you're going to overeat, pull a chair up to the refrigerator or something. It's almost like it's a level of accepting yourself for who you are, but yet you've created a condition around it that you're still creating a control around it, that it's like you're saying you're giving yourself permission to be who you are, but you're also saying, look, I'm not going to put myself at such high risk or create a dynamic where I'm setting myself up for an unfortunate series of emotional circumstances. So yes. I think it feels very different than, kind of a mindless, spending that, and we could be talking about anything here, because really the money's the metaphor, right? But it sounds like a very sort of, loving thing to do for yourself when you say, I've got this little fund and it's my little place where I get to do my little spending, my extra spending here and there. And I appreciate your sharing this with our audience, because I think that too often people feel like they have to hide out when they have something that they do that they either feel maybe some shame about, or they label it bad, as you were just saying. They label it bad, when in fact I think what you're offering is another way of working through it. I think what you're sharing with us is, look, be well informed. You've read a number of different books, a number of different approaches to money and mindsets around money. You now have clients that you teach these things to, and you've created a system for yourself to work with it, not just say it's got to be all or nothing.
Exactly, right? That. Yes. Working with yourself and focusing on your strengths is the biggest thing you can do, not only for your business, not only for yourself, not only for your career, you and your human experience. That's the greatest thing you can do. Because unfortunately, I can never remember the research now. It starts with a G. And they did a research that a lot of organizations are focused so much on strengthening people's weaknesses that they're not doing anything about their strengths. So a lot of people are disenfranchised with their jobs and everything. It's because there's so much focus on their weakness, when it's like, focus on their strength. And the paper goes further into, they bring this consultant in to help organizations focus on their employees' strength. And it
are you talking about the Gallup?
That is
service?
it.
Yeah, Gallup research. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it actually increased the overall revenue and also contentment of the employees within that organization.
Yep.
Just goes to show, focus on your strength.
Yes.
In regards to your weaknesses, mitigate it. And just let it be, or bring somebody in to deal with that. Don't abdicate any of it.
Yeah.
But just the awareness that you're talking about, and that ownership makes a whole lot of difference. And also, we have to be very cognizant of the emotions that we're attaching to money.
Yes.
Because if you think of it as a person or a pet or even a best friend, if you're always telling your best friend, oh, you're bad, oh, I have to hide you, oh, you're not good for me, how often would that best friend want to hang around with you?
Right.
So we have to be very careful. That's why I put these systems in place, so that when I'm dealing with money, it's always coming from a place of happiness and abundance and not lack.
Right.
Because that's always reflected back to me.
Right. No, it sounds like a very healthy approach. And I know that you have something called the wealth Booster report and a Wealth Booster quiz that our listeners can access by going to www.wealthfluency.com, which is your website, and they can access this there and learn a lot more about themselves and learn more about your services. I think that what you're sharing about yourself and modeling is a very human and healthy approach to how we need to work with ourselves, not against ourselves, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah. And so, I'm curious to hear from your perspective. You've made a number of transitions in your career, everything from medicine to medical research to finance to now being an entrepreneur. If you were to give somebody one piece of advice about making a significant transition, or even a moderate transition, what would be a piece of advice that you would give them to think about as they're encountering a transition in their life?
So when it comes to transitions, I'll definitely say embrace it. It might be a hard transition or it might be an easy transition, whether it's initiated by yourself or initiated externally. Embrace it. In the rafting sport, when you're going through the rapids, they say, you have to flow with the rapids. Don't try to go against it, because then it just makes that rapids impact stronger. So it's just the same kind of modality, that try to flow with the transition instead of trying to resist it. Try to understand how this transition could get you to the other side, or is getting, whether you like it or not, is going to get you somewhere.
Right.
So it's a matter of getting yourself there. So one thing I would say is, don't let the limitations of your eyes limit your mind.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh. That was very profound. I like that. Don't let the limitations of your mind, don't let the limitations of your eyes
limit your mind.
Limit your mind. Wow. There you go. That says it all, doesn't it? And what I love about that is you are a living example of that.
Yeah. Through all the ebbs and flows and everything, days I feel like I fit in, other days I feel like I don't fit in. And it's just one of those things. And coming from being so multicultural, being raised in different cultures,
yes,
all of these aspects show up in me.
Yes.
That, I might be fully accepted by the Latinos. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Am I fully accepted by the Italians? Am I fully accepted by the Cameroonians or the Brits? They do and they don't.
Or the Floridians.
That too. Yeah. With my exotic accent. Yeah. Tell me about it. But it's a wonderful, enjoy your human experience, because it's meant to be exactly that.
Yeah.
And don't try to fit in.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. And I appreciate you being here. And I really look forward to hearing how people feel when they listen to this conversation. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me, Tammy.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with AnwinMbahalways. It was so interesting to speak with her and learn about her personal and professional journey. What is your key takeaway from our interview? If you are interested in any of the resources or links mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them on my website at tammygoulerloeb.com. Just look for episode 170 on the website page. Are you anticipating your next professional move? Hey, take a look at my new book, Work from the Inside Out. Break through 9 common obstacles and design a career that fulfills you. It's available in print and ebook editions through my website, Amazon worldwide, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, or you can request it through your local library. If you were inspired by this episode with Anwin, please share it with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Subscribing is always free. And if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate reading your review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find. Just go to the Apple Podcast button on my podcast page on my website and follow the instructions provided there. Thank you so much for listening. It's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.